What would you do if you woke up somewhere you didn't recognize, somewhere you couldn't place, a place that felt wrong from the moment you opened your eyes, your head throbbing, your memory clouded? The confusion is creeping in. How did you get here? Why can't you remember? And why is it so quiet? Too quiet. Imagine, just for a moment, that you are no longer sure this place is really real, or if it's something else. A room, maybe, that you've never seen before. The air feels thick, almost as if the walls themselves are watching you. You look around, expecting to see something familiar, but instead, it's just shadows and corners you can't explain. And then you hear it. You turn, thinking it's nothing, maybe just your imagination. But then you hear it again. A soft footstep, closer this time. Someone or something is in the room with you. How long would it take before you felt the cold sweat on your skin? Before your heart began to race? How long before you realized you are not alone? And then you wonder, how long has it been since something started watching you? You think you're safe. You convince yourself it's nothing more than your mind playing tricks on you. But deep down, you know, something is wrong. And what if you're not the one who's been watching? What if you're the one being watched? Tonight, you will hear 10 stories. There were 10 true, terrifying encounters with those who thought they were alone, but soon realized they never were. These stories will make you question every creak in the dark, every flicker of light, every whisper in an empty room, because sometimes the things we think we see are only a glimpse of something darker lurking just beyond our sight. And by the time we reach the last story, you'll find yourself wondering if the darkness really is just a shadow, or if it's something far, far worse. Stay with me and let the fear take hold. The house has stood abandoned for years. No one ever lingered too long, not because of its age, but because of what had happened here. And yet, for a family new to the area, it seemed like the perfect place to start fresh, a chance to escape the past. What they didn't know was that they were about to walk into something far darker than they could ever have imagined. It was the kind of place you might expect to find on the outskirts of a small town, a house with a history that no one wanted to remember. But for the Johnsons, it was home now. They had no idea that history, however, had a way of clawing its way to the surface. Sarah Johnson, the mother of 2 young children, wasn't the type to believe in ghosts or spirits. But that first night, something happened. Something that made her question everything. It started small. A creak here, a whisper there, just enough to make Sarah pause, to make her wonder, did I hear that? But she brushed it off. She had too much on her mind, unpacking, adjusting to a new town, and taking care of her children. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the house began to change. The temperature dropped, and Sarah noticed that the air felt heavy, a chill that settled deep in her bones. No matter how many layers she put on, she tried to shake the feeling, but it followed her, always there, just at the edge of her awareness. Then came the noises, a scraping sound, like furniture moving, but nothing was in motion. The faint sound of laughter, but only one voice. The whispering, a voice she couldn't understand, coming from nowhere and everywhere. She wasn't alone. Sarah felt it now. Something was in the house with her. And it wasn't just a house that was old. It was the energy that clung to every corner, every room, as though the very walls were suffused with a presence. Sarah tried to sleep, but the house wouldn't let her. Every small sound, every creak, every draft sent her heart racing. She closed her eyes, trying to ignore the feeling of something watching her. Then the whisper came. Sarah. She could hear her name. Her own name, but from a place that shouldn't be. The voice wasn't from anyone in the house. It was something else. Something not of this world. In a place where light couldn't reach, Sarah saw it. Out of the corner of her eye. A shadow, tall and unnerving, stretching across the wall. It didn't move like a person. It was wrong. It hovered, just for a moment, before it vanished. Sarah, come closer. What happened next would change Sarah's life forever. The things she saw, the things she couldn't explain, were they simply figments of an overworked mind? Or had the house, with all its years of pain and loss, awakens something in the shadows. The city is quiet at night. The streets are empty, save for the faint whispers of wind and the occasional car passing by. But for Lily, the night is far from peaceful. She's the last passenger on the 1147 bus, and with each stop, she feels a growing unease, like the darkness around her is pulling her in, wrapping her in its cold embrace. The bus creaks with every turn, and the stale air inside feels thick, almost suffocating. Lily tries to ignore the feeling creeping up her spine. She's been on this bus countless times before, but tonight is different. Tonight, the darkness outside seems to close in on her, and the silence inside is more oppressive than it should be. It's then that Lily notices something strange. The bus driver, an older man with a tired expression, hasn't said a word since she boarded. He's staring ahead, his hands gripping the wheel tightly. But the unease in the air isn't just from the stillness. No, it's something else, something unseen, something that has followed her onto this bus. At the next stop, the bus slows to a halt. The light outside flickers as the doors open. And there, standing in the doorway, is a figure. Tall, with a hood that hides most of its face, and a tattered coat that flaps in the wind. Lily's heart skips a beat. The street is empty. There's no one else in sight. Yet the figure steps onto the bus, its footfall heavy and deliberate. She doesn't know why, but Lily feels a wave of dread washes over her. She can't explain it, but something about this person feels wrong. The way they move, the way they hold their heads slightly tilted, as if they're listening to something or someone. The hairs on the back of her neck stand up. The bus lurches forward, but the air inside feels suffocating, as though it's become a vacuum, sucking the very life out of space between them. Lily can feel the stranger next to her, their presence heavy and suffocating. She tries to avoid looking at them, but she can feel their eyes. She can feel them watching her. But when she turns her gaze toward the window, all she can see is her reflection. Her breathing starts to quicken. She feels trapped. The silence stretches on, unbearable. When Lily thinks she might lose control, just when she can't stand the weight of the silence any longer, the figure speaks. A whisper, almost inaudible at first, like the rustling of leaves in wind. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. There's no doubt in her mind now. This is no ordinary passenger. But who is this person? Why are they on the bus at this time? And why did they choose her to sit next to? Just as she's about to turn back to the figure, the bus lurches forward. A sharp jolt that throws her out of her seat. She steadies herself, her heart racing, and looks back to the seat next to her, but the figure is gone, disappeared into thin air, as if they were never there at all. Lily stares in disbelief. The only trace of the stranger is the icy chill still lingering in the air, the uncomfortable feeling that someone or something is still watching her. And as the bus rolls on, Lily can't help but wonder, was the stranger ever really there? Or was it something far worse? Something that had been following her all along. Out here, in the calm stillness of a quiet suburban neighborhood, things were supposed to be safe, peaceful, normal. And for Karen, a young woman looking to earn a little extra money as a babysitter, this night seemed no different from any other. She was here to look after 2 children, both already in bed, tucked away in their rooms for the night. Their parents, out for the evening, promised to return by midnight. Karen, who was used to babysitting, was no stranger to nights like this. But there was something different about this house, something she couldn't quite place. The kids had been eerily silent all evening, not the usual giggles or shuffling around as children would do before bedtime. No, they were too quiet, too still. Karen tried to shake the feeling, but the silence weighed on her, pressing down like a heavy blanket. She tried to distract herself, checking her phone for messages and flicking through social media posts to pass the time. But every so often, she would glance up toward the stairs. And then the phone rang. It was strange. She wasn't expecting anyone. She picked it up quickly, hoping it wasn't some prank call or a wrong number. Check the closet. Check the closet. What could it mean? Why the closet? She had already checked on the kids and tucked them in hours ago. They were fast asleep, weren't they? A strange unease crawls up her spine. Her heart begins to pound in her chest. And then, just as the silence feels like it might swallow her whole, she hears it. One step, then two, then three. The sound of footsteps was too soft to be heard clearly, but loud enough to draw her attention. The children should be asleep. The children were asleep. But what was that noise coming from their room? Her mind races. Should she check on the kids? Should she go up there and risk waking them up? She turns her head to the side, to the closet in the hallway, just down the stairs. That feeling, the one she couldn't explain, now grips her tightly. Something about that closet. Something felt wrong, something she hadn't noticed before. The door to the closet seems almost out of place, slightly ajar, the gap just wide enough to make her stomach twist. Her hand trembles as she turns a knob, pulling the door open just slightly. The air inside the closet is cold, colder than anything she's felt before. She pulls it open wider, her breath caught in her throat, her mind telling her to stop, to leave, but something inside her pushes her forward. But what caught her attention wasn't the emptiness inside. No, it was a locked door. A door she'd never seen before. A door that didn't belong. And as she stood there, staring at the locked door, she heard it again, the softest whisper, just behind her ear. It was the voice from the phone call. "Check the closet," it repeated, almost taunting her.
Story 4. The Silent Neighbor.
Alice had just moved into her new apartment, excited for a fresh start. But from the moment she stepped inside, something felt strange. The apartment itself was quiet, clean, and spacious, a perfect place to begin a new chapter. But it wasn't the apartment that had her on edge. It was what was next door. Her neighbor's door, right next to hers, never opened. Alice had lived there for a week now, but not once had she heard any movement or sounds coming from that apartment. No voices, no footsteps, no TV or music, just silence. And that silence started to gnaw at her. The silence was too still. Alice tried not to let her imagination run wild, but she couldn't help herself. There were no signs of life, no footsteps from a neighbor, no sounds of daily activity. It was as though the apartment had been abandoned, but there was no for rent sign, no notice of vacancy, just nothing. As the days passed, Alice tried to convince herself it was just an old building settling, or maybe some construction noise next door. But then one night, something changed. She heard a sound again. This time it was clearer, a faint scraping, followed by the unmistakable sound of something being dragged along the floor. At first, she thought it was just a trick of the mind. But when she heard the cough, it wasn't the sound of a sick person. No, it was the kind of cough you hear when someone is trying to cover up a noise. A cough meant to mask the sound of something else. Curiosity gnaws at her. She can't stop herself. She needs to know what's going on next door. But as she approaches the door once again, a chill runs down her spine. The hallway light flickers above her head, casting strange, shifting shadows. The door is still closed, yet something about it feels wrong. She raises her hand to knock. And when she knocks, there's no response. No movement. No footsteps. Nothing. Alice waits, a sinking feeling growing in her chest. She knocks again. This time, harder, louder. And then, Alice stands frozen in the doorway, unsure of what she's seeing. The silence in the apartment is suffocating, the empty space too much to comprehend. She steps inside hesitantly, but there's nothing, just the empty, hollow echo of her footsteps on the floor. That's when Alice heard it, the sound of a phone ringing, not from her own pocket, not from the hallway, but from within the neighbor's apartment. It's faint at first, but unmistakable, and it grows louder, as though someone is calling from within the walls. But the apartment is empty. No one is inside. Who is calling? Who is inside? And what is it that Alice has just uncovered in the silence of the night?
Story 5. The Dark Figure in the Forest.
A weekend camping trip. A chance to escape the noise of everyday life. To reconnect with nature. For a group of friends, this was supposed to be a relaxing getaway, an adventure in the woods. But What they didn't realize was that the woods have a way of changing you, not in the way you expect, but in ways you can never forget. One friend, Rachel, felt it first. She couldn't explain it, not exactly, but something about the forest felt wrong. It wasn't the trees or the darkening sky. No, it was a feeling that something was watching them. The deeper they went into the woods, the more that feeling seemed to grow. She brushed it off, told herself it was just her imagination, but the movement, the shape she'd seen, lingered in her mind. Every now and then, it seemed to appear again, a dark figure, moving just at the edge of the trees, watching, waiting. At first, no one took her seriously. They all thought she was just letting the isolation get to her, that the dark was playing tricks on her eyes. But then it happened again. Guys, did you see that? Over there, in the trees. Come on, Rachel. It's just the trees moving. You're letting the dark mess with your head. It's nothing. By the time the fire had burned low and the stars filled the sky, Rachel could no longer ignore it. The dark figure was back, moving between the trees. This time, it wasn't just a fleeting glance. It was there, solid and unmistakable. But when she turned to call out to the others, it was gone. It wasn't just her imagination anymore. Rachel was sure of it. There was something out there, something watching. She couldn't tell if it was human or animal, but it didn't move like either. It was too deliberate, too still. And that's when Rachel found it. A map, a hand-drawn map, torn and frayed at the edges, leading deeper into the forest. It wasn't just a random scrap of paper. It was a guide, a path that seemed to be pointing them exactly where the figure was. And it was drawing them in. She knew what this meant. The map, the figure, the feeling she couldn't shake. It was all connected, and it was drawing them in deeper into the woods. What lay ahead, in the heart of the darkness, would change everything they thought they knew about the forest and about the things that dwell within it. Would Rachel follow the map? Would she uncover the truth of what waited for them in the depths of the forest? Or would the forest claim them all, one by one, as it had done before? The forest, it had drawn them in. Rachel, alone now, stood at the heart of it. And as the path ahead narrowed, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was all leading her somewhere. Somewhere she had to go, even if she didn't know why. The map, the figure, everything was beginning to fit together in a way she couldn't yet understand. And it wasn't just Rachel. All the pieces were starting to fall into place. The eerie silence in the house, the phone calls that led nowhere, the unsettling figure who whispered from the shadows. They weren't isolated events. No, they were connected, tied to one place, one location where the dark things of the world had gathered. None of them realized it at the time. The babysitter, the bus rider, the young family in the haunted house. They all thought they were experiencing their own isolated nightmares, unique to their lives. But there was something larger, something tying them all together. A place where dark things were born and where souls were twisted by the unexplainable. St. Margaret's Asylum, once a place of the lost, the mad, and the broken, but now abandoned and closed down after strange occurrences drove its staff and patients to madness. The place was supposed to be forgotten, the whispers that came from there, the events that transpired, buried. But what was left in the aftermath didn't stay buried, and it never stayed silent. The haunted house, the babysitter's nightmare, the figure on the bus, they all share a dark link, a connection that none of them could have ever understood. The shadows that haunted their lives, the voices that whispered to them, the eyes that watched them from the corner of their rooms, all of it had come from the same place. And the time had come for them to understand just how deep the darkness ran. This was the heart of it all, the asylum, St. Margaret's Asylum, where it all began. And Rachel, she wasn't the first to follow the map. She wasn't the first to be drawn here. No, the others, Karen, Lily, Sarah, they all unknowingly walked the same path, their stories leading them straight into the heart of the darkness. The figure, the whispers, the locked doors, the strange occurrences, it was all connected. And now, as Rachel steps deeper into the ruins, she realizes that the horrors she's seen so far were only the beginning. The true terror is just starting.
Story 6, The Phone Call.
2 days. That's how long it had been since Emma disappeared. 2 long days of searching, questioning, and hoping. David, lost in the way of it all, had been calling her phone over and over, each ring another reminder of how much he didn't know, how much was slipping through his fingers. And then, just as the last shred of hope seemed to vanish, the phone rang. His heart skipped a beat, and for a moment, he thought it might be a miracle. Emma's voice on the other end. Maybe she was safe. Maybe she had been lost. But now she was coming back. David, it's me. David's eyes widen, hope flooding his chest. His voice cracks as he speaks, the relief almost too much to bear. Emma, where are you? I've been looking everywhere. I thought. But then, the voice on the other end cuts in again, still soft but with an odd hesitation. I'm not sure where I am, David, but I need you to listen. You have to help me. There's someone here with me. David's heart raced as he listened to his wife's voice, but something wasn't right. The tone, the way the words came out, they weren't Emma's. They were too flat, too disconnected, like she was speaking from a distance, almost as if she wasn't really there at all. Emma, what's going on? Where are you? I can't hear you clearly. Are you safe? I'm not supposed to be here. David, it's not what you think. I didn't leave. I didn't go anywhere. But you have to listen carefully. There's someone in the house, someone you can't trust. The words she spoke were becoming more garbled, more panicked. And then, just as David's mind began to unravel the pieces of her message, the call cut off. The line went dead. David knew something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. His wife's voice had been too distorted, too unnatural. She had warned him about someone in the house. But who? And where was she now? Could she still be in danger? Then came the noise, a loud crash, a sound so unnerving it made David's heart stop. His body moved on instinct, racing up the stairs toward the source of the noise. He didn't stop to think, didn't pause to process. Only one thought raced through his mind. Emma, she's in trouble. In the darkness of the room, David saw it, the shadow, standing motionless in the corner. A presence, so still, so unnatural. It felt like the room itself had been infected. His heart skipped a beat, his mind racing, but his body was frozen, paralyzed by fear. This wasn't Emma. And just as David's mind struggled to comprehend what he was seeing, the shadow moved, slowly, deliberately, toward him.
Story 7, The Haunted Mirror.
Sometimes, the past finds a way to make itself known, even when you least expect it. For Lily and Mark, a young couple searching for something unique for their home. It seemed like an ordinary yard sale, but then they saw it. The mirror. Look at this. It's beautiful. It's so old, it must be a real find. Don't you think it's perfect for the living room? They had no idea, of course, that the mirror had seen far more than it should have, that it had witnessed things long forgotten, things that were never meant to be remembered, and now it would show them those things. It started slowly. At first, it was a flicker, a slight distortion in the reflection, but Lily dismissed it. After all, it was just an old mirror. Nothing more than a quirk of age, perhaps, or a trick of the light. But the feeling lingered, a sensation that something in the reflection didn't belong. That's odd. I didn't leave the chairs like that. At first, she tried to ignore it, but the mirror wouldn't let her. Every time she looked, something different appeared. The room changed, altered by some unseen force. Distorted faces, twisted images of people she didn't recognize, and shadows that seemed to move when she wasn't looking. The mirror showed her things that made no sense, her own reflection, but distorted, twisted. And then one night it happened. She saw herself in the mirror, lying on the floor, lifeless, her face pale, eyes wide open in terror. And behind her, in the reflection, there was a figure, dark and menacing, standing over her. Mark, please, you have to see this. It's not just me. There's something in the mirror. Something wrong. She couldn't let it go. The images in the mirror had become an obsession. She saw them every time she glanced at it, those twisted reflections of herself, trapped in a nightmare of her own making. But one night, it took a darker turn. A vision so vivid, so real, that Lily couldn't breathe. She saw herself lie on the floor, her hands around her throat, gasping for breath as someone or something strangled her. But just as he reached the door, Mark froze. In the reflection, he saw something else, a figure standing behind him. He turned, expecting to see Lily, but the reflection showed himself, holding a knife. And the reflection wasn't just watching, it was moving. It was him, but it wasn't. The mirror had shown him the truth, but it wasn't the truth he wanted to see. Mark realized then, with bone-chilling clarity, that the mirror didn't just reflect what was. It reflected what could be, and what it showed him was a darkness that lay in wait.
Story 8, The Shadow in the Window.
Nathan had always loved living in the city. The hum of traffic below, the lights stretching out for miles. It made him feel alive. But tonight, something had changed. Something in the city's rhythm had shifted, and it all started with that window. At first, Nathan thought it was nothing more than a trick of the light, a trick of the mind. But the shadow, it didn't move. It remained in the window, perfectly still night after night, a dark, shapeless form that seemed to watch him in return. The figure remained unmoving, a solid silhouette in the darkened window. Every night, Nathan would find himself drawn back to it, his eyes tracing its outline, watching for any sign of movement. But there was none. The figure stood still, as if it was waiting for something or someone. As the days passed, Nathan's obsession grew. He couldn't escape it. The figure in the window consumed his thoughts, pulled at his every waking moment. He tried to ignore it. He tried to tell himself it was nothing, just his mind playing tricks. But the more he looked, the more real it became. Nathan couldn't take it any longer. He had to know. He had to understand who or what was standing in that window every night. It was as though the figure had drawn him in, trapped him in a web of fascination and dread. His heart pounded in his chest as he made his way up the stairs. He knew this was irrational. He knew it was dangerous. But something in him couldn't stop. Something inside him urged him to get closer, to see the figure up close, to find out if it was real. He had crossed the line. He was too close now, and as he stood in front of the apartment door, the feeling of being watched overwhelmed him. He knew he had to look back. He had to see it one more time. The figure wasn't waiting for him to come closer. It was waiting for him to see it. And now, it was no longer the one watching. And as Nathan turned to flee, the reflection stayed, watching him, waiting for him. And the figure, no longer in the window, no longer behind glass, began to step toward him.
Story 9, The Unknown Passenger.
It was late, too late for most people to be out. The streets had emptied. The city's usual hum quieted down into a dull, oppressive silence. Sarah, a woman just trying to make a home after a long day, entered the subway car, unaware that tonight would be different, unaware that tonight the train ride would be anything but ordinary. At first, everything seemed normal, just the usual empty car, a few straggling passengers heading home after a long day. But as the train moves deeper into the dark tunnels beneath the city, Sarah begins to feel watched. The air inside the train car feels heavier, almost suffocating, as if it's closing in around her. She shifts uncomfortably in her seat, but the feeling persists. Her stomach churns. She tries to dismiss it, telling herself that it's just the exhaustion playing tricks on her. But there's something in the way he's looking at her, unblinking, unwavering, that makes her skin crawl. She glances around the empty car, her heartbeat quickening. No one else is there, just the two of them. He's moving closer. He's watching her. And now, the silence between them feels unbearable, thick with something unspoken. But it's more than just his gaze that unsettles her. It's the way he's so still, too still, as if he's waiting for something. Her breath quickens. She knows she has to get off at the next stop. She has to get away from him. But as she looks down at her phone, pretending to check the time, her hands trembling, she feels him standing beside her. She dares not look up, but she feels his presence. Closer now, almost too close. The sound of his footsteps, soft, deliberate, fills the silence between them. And then, just as the train begins to slow at the next station, he speaks. His voice, low and soft, reaches her ear like a whisper in the dark. The words, chilling, sent a shock of cold terror through her. Sarah. He spoke her name. But how? How did he know? Sarah hadn't said a word to him. She hadn't given him any indication that she was aware of him. And yet he knew her name. Her worst fear had come true. This wasn't just some random passenger. This man, this stranger, was no stranger at all. He knew her name. And worse, he knew her. As Sarah steps off the train, she feels the weight of his gaze on her back. She looks around, but no one else is there. No one else is watching. But she knows he's still following her. And this time, there's no escape.
Story 10, The Dark Truth, revealed.
St. Margaret's Asylum, a place once feared. A place that held more than just the broken minds of those who entered. It was a place where things went wrong, where the living became as lost as the souls they left behind. And now, the time had come for the truth to be revealed, for the darkness to reclaim what it lost. Rachel's journey had led her here, and she wasn't alone. The others, Karen, Lily, Sarah, Nathan, and Mark, they all found their way to this forsaken place, drawn by forces they couldn't explain. They had all experienced the same unexplainable terror, the same supernatural horrors. Now, they would discover that they were all connected, all of them caught in the same web. Every step inside the asylum seemed to echo with the memories of those who had passed through these halls. The air inside is thick, suffocating, as if it too had been waiting dormant for something to wake it from its slumber. Each room they pass seems to pulse with a dark, unseen energy. The whispers of the past, of the patients who died under mysterious circumstances, linger in the walls, their souls trapped in the asylum, bound to the building. And as they move deeper into the heart of the asylum, the truth begins to unfold. They were here, all of them, trapped in this building, their souls bound to the walls by the dark force that had claimed this place. The spirits of those who died, broken, lost, and filled with rage, had been waiting, and now they were calling out for the living. What they find inside is worse than anything they could have imagined. The room is dark, but in the corner of the room is a mirror, its surface cracked. And as the group steps closer, they realize this isn't just any mirror. It's the one from their nightmares, the one that had shown them their darkest fears. But the reflection inside is not just an image. It's a door, a gateway to the other side. The spirits have awakened, and now they want to drag the living back with them. They want to claim the souls of those who have crossed into their world, the souls of the ones who dare to come too close. The asylum is alive with the voices of the dead, and as the mirror shatters, the final confrontation begins. Will they escape, or will they be claimed by the spirits of St. Margaret's Asylum, lost forever in the darkness that has consumed this place? Which story gave you chills? Which one would you have been too afraid to survive? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear which one had you looking over your shoulder, questioning every shadow. Share this video with a friend who loves scary stories. Let's see if they can sleep after this, because we all know some stories are best shared, especially when they're this terrifying. And if you thought these tales were chilling, don't go anywhere just yet. Stay tuned for more terrifying tales to keep you up at night. Don't forget to subscribe, because the darkness is never far behind.